Hello everybody, this is Albert with Green Tea House. I hope you're doing well today. Today we're going to talk about the beauty of living in 2023 America in regards to access to tea. Now before we begin, I highly recommend you check out our back catalog of episodes, in particular the episodes that have to do with the different categories of tea, especially if you're a novitiate to tea. So I'm recording, behind me is the Black Sea. I'm in a seaside town about an hour outside of Istanbul on the Black Sea called Chile. Yesterday I was over on the Aegean Sea. I recorded on a ferry near Troy. So that's the beauty of this ancient part of the world, is I am literally an hour away from the Aegean Sea. I'm an hour away from the Black Sea. And this is an old fort that was built by the Byzantines. So it was an old Christian fort. So as I mentioned, if you're watching this chronologically, that we've been drinking a lot of local teas, and it just kind of reminds me how fortunate we are to live at a time that we live. Because if you think about certainly ancient time, access to tea was exceedingly limited. So, but we're not even talking about tea. We've had tea for about 4,000 years. But even if you talk about, let's say, 1200 AD. 1200 AD, you had the Chinese drinking their teas, and they had, of course, the biggest variety. They would have pu'er, especially in the Southwest. They would have their greens, they would have their whites, and they would have their blacks. And over in Japan, they would have mostly their greens, because they just got actually their Camellia sinensis plants from China. The Buddhist monks brought it over there. But everybody was just drinking what they had. Here, they weren't even drinking tea really at that point. But let's say in 1900, then we fast forward to 1900, it's the same thing. China only has access to their teas. And if you live, like, let's say in South America, you got yerba mate, but you're not drinking really anybody else's tea. And if you're in England or in America, your access to tea is exceedingly limited, in that the East India Company, as we talked about in the episode on the history of tea, you have access to black tea. Tea back then was black. We know, we have the episode here, what is English tea, Earl Grey, all these varieties are all black teas, right? So if you're in England, yeah, you got teas being shipped in from India mostly. But first of all, most of the tea is stale. It's old, right? It takes months to get it shipped through, especially before the Suez Canal was built. But even after the Suez Canal was built in the 1860s, it's still taking time to get tea up there. So then you fast forward to, let's say, even 1980s. If you're in 1980s America, you're drinking Lipton, you're drinking the packaged tea, but you would be very hard pressed to find in the large majority of grocery stores and certainly coffee shops to find any tea that is not black tea, because that is the largest commodity tea. Of course, black tea is mostly CTC, crushed, torn, curled, the low grade crap that they put in iced teas like Snapple in Arizona and all these things. So now we fast forward to now. And really in the last 10 to 15 years, you've seen this explosion that we are very blessed to live when we live vis-a-vis tea. Maybe not in regards to other aspects of life. Maybe it was better in the past than it is in 2023. But now we live in a world where, look at here in Turkey, yes, black tea is the king. Turkish tea is black tea. But through Amazon, they have Amazon here, they can get a wide variety of tea. But let's just talk about America. So we live in a time where we can get loose leaf tea of any variety. We are blessed that you can go to a coffee shop, and we have episodes here how coffee shops unintentionally ruin your tea. But we live in a time where you can go to a coffee shop, and most coffee shops are going to have at least 3 or 4 tisanes or herbals, and they'll have a green tea, they'll have an Earl Grey, they maybe will have a white tea blend and whatnot. And then of course, through websites like my own, like Green Tea House, and others that you can find online, and certainly there's quite a bit, we have access to every type of tea, all 6 categories of tea, and then all different cultivars of green tea, all different cultivars of oolong tea, all different cultivars of black tea from China, black tea from Sri Lanka, black tea from Kenya, black tea from Nepal, black tea from Turkey, and then you throw in all the different herbals, like we've talked about here, linden flower tea, very popular. So you go to China, of course, you go to Taiwan, there's a mind-blowing amount of tisanes and herbals that you can only find really over there. And so we have this access to all this tea that none of our human ancestors, whether we're going back 3,000 years, 1,000 years, even up to 30 years ago, didn't have access to. So in closing, let's be appreciative of the access we have. And thank God, because of the access, we can get Green Tea House, we can get our high quality organic loose leaf tea of different categories of the Camellia sinensis plant and tisanes and herbals, that we're able to have this. So live up to it and enjoy the fact, because all of our ancestors here in America were drinking crappy black tea for most of the existence of the United States, and it's only been in this fraction of sliver of time that now we have access to such high quality oolongs and greens and whites and blacks and pu'ers and herbals. So take advantage of it, and particularly take advantage of it at our website, Green Tea House, and buy different 1 ounce samples of all the different teas we have, because we are blessed to live in a time that we are in regard to tea drinking, because we have everything at our access. Guys, post in the comments. I would love to hear from you. Until next time, take care. God bless and pray.